Hands down, these are the best guitar tones I've ever gotten in my entire life. And for years and decades, we've been told that the only way to get pro tones like these on a record are with cranked tube amps. Well, that's a tube amp lie. Because all the tones you just heard from my new EP, Heartsick, were made with this. In today's video, I'm gonna show you exactly how I did it. I'm gonna walk you through my Strymon Iridium settings. I'm gonna take you inside Logic Pro and show you all my recorded guitar tracks. So let's go. All right, I'm not gonna waste any more of your time. You're probably here to see these settings. So I'm gonna show you exactly what my settings are to get my massive tones that I got on this EP. And you're gonna be surprised at how simple I run things and how truly great this pedal is. All right, so this is my pedal board. It runs my entire studio. Basically, I have a video about this. I will link it down in the descriptions below or in one of these tags right here. This board is super simple. As you can see, there's only a few pedals on it. The heart of it is, of course, the Strymon Iridium. I was using the HX Stomp for all my sounds before I got the Strymon Iridium, and then I got a whole bunch of drive pedals. But since I got the Strymon Iridium, I've dedicated the HX Stomp to running reverb and delays. So I run it very simple. The Phase 95 and the EP booster are in front of the Strymon Iridium, just like I'm running this as an amp, and then I'm running the HX Stomp after the Strymon Iridium. So essentially that's basically kind of like running it through an effects loop. So all the time-based effects is after the Strymon Iridium, and all the modulation and the drive, which is only two, are before the Strymon Iridium. So kind of like a real amp. Inside the Strymon Iridium, I run 2 amps only. They're my favorite amps in the whole world. The one amp that I run the most is the Chime, which is their Vox AC30 amp. And I have multiple videos on my Vox AC15. I'll link those down in the descriptions below. But basically, I run the Chime channel on the Strymon Iridium similar to what I would run a Vox AC15 or an AC30 in real life. And these are my settings, super simple. And I got a lot of comments in my last Vox AC15 video where I run my settings, and people were basically like, well, you run everything at noon basically. And that is true. And the reason why is because it sounds good at this point. Go watch that video on how I dial in a Vox AC15, but I run it pretty much the same. As you can see, the drive, I keep it around 1 o'clock. I like the edge of breakup. So it sounds like this. So yeah, I want a little bit drive into the Vox AC30. I want it to be chimey and just a little bit of grit, because I actually don't like clean amps. And then for the bass, middle, and treble, I run it this way. Bass is around, again, like around 1 o'clock. Treble, maybe around 2. I like a little bit more bite. And this middle knob right here acts like a tone cut. Actually, it acts exactly like a tone cut on a real Vox AC15 and an AC30, where if you run the knob counterclockwise, it cuts more, there's more treble on it. And then if you run it the opposite clockwise, there's a little bit more bass in it. So it's counterintuitive to an actual tone knob like you would see in an overdrive pedal. So I run it, yeah, just a little hair before noon, like 11 a.m. And it's literally my tone for the Vox AC15 or AC30. And what I like to do, I just dropped the pick. What I like to do is I drive it with the EP booster. This is my favorite boost overdrive pedal ever. It just gives it so much body and so much low end and so much girth. and I just kind of play around with the knob. And I like that there's just one knob because you can kind of adjust it as you go. So that's my Vox AC30 sound. I drive with the EP booster. Let me show you what the HX Stomp does. This is my dotted eighth delay from the Strymon Iridium. This is on my single Give and Take with AJ Perdomo. Yeah, so that's kind of like my U2 style delay. And then this one is just an analog delay for solos. Add the EP booster. All right, so that's amp one. Now, the second amp I use is obviously the Punch, which is the Plexi. Now, in the Strymon Iridium, I made it my favorite, so I basically toggle between the two, so I never change the settings. But this is my sound right here. This is my heavy tone. Screw that up. So the settings that I have for Punch, honestly, I don't even remember because I set them a while ago, but if we were to dial that in manually, this is what it would sound like. So Punch, I would go down here, and I would just turn this drive up. And that's basically my tones right here. And then I like the EP booster, and I give it lots of body. That's it. Those are the two amps that I use out of the Strymon Iridium. Those are the sounds I get. As you can see, I don't use any extra IRs. I use everything stock. I use cab A for both of these amps, which is basically their stock settings. For room, as you can see, I use, I don't know, just a little bit, just to give it a little bit of depth. I actually add reverb in post, or I let my mix engineer add that stuff. So now that we've covered the settings from my Strymon Iridium, and before we go into my Logic Pro session for It Takes Two, which is the first track on the EP, I want to make it clear that the final EP that you're hearing on Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you get your streaming services, those tracks are professionally mixed and mastered by my friend Alan Potiker, who's a wizard. So the tracks I'm going to show you guys, or I'm about to show you guys, are the raw tracks. So just keep that in mind. But having said all of that, I felt like Alan did a great job mixing the tracks to the point where he kept the integrity and the tones of the guitars that I recorded, and he just made it better. So anyways, me and Alan have a video where he broke down his mix session for Give and Take, which is a previous single that I have. I will link that in the descriptions below so you guys can take a look. And also, I'm not gonna go too much into much details into how I recorded It Takes Two, but I have a video on how to get massive guitar tones, how to record massive guitar tones. I will also link that in the descriptions below. There's no sponsor to this video. I just want to give you guys as much value and show you guys everything that I'm doing and show you guys that if a musician like myself can do all of this in his home studio, then you can do the same thing as well. Oh, and also if you want to work with Alan, my mix engineer and producer, I will have his email down below. He, again, is a wizard and was just amazing to work with. So with all of that out of the way, let's go into Logic Pro. All right, we are inside Logic Pro, the session for It Takes Two, which again is the first single or the first track on the EP. I haven't opened up this session since I sent it off to Alan to get mixed. So this is gonna be interesting for me as well. So we're both gonna take a look at this for the first time in a long time. These are the drum tracks right here. I got some filter drums, bass, and yeah, let's just start going through what we got right here. All right, so that is the intro. So this is the intro guitar. Let's take a listen to this. So that guitar is obviously the Strymon Iridium. I'm using the punch model, probably with the EP booster. And if I'm not mistaken, this guitar is my Gibson Les Paul standard. It has just like the hottest pickups, and I just wanted this dirty, guitar to start off. In the intro to the single, I always wanted it to be filtered and be small and then basically explode into the intro riff. Let's take a listen to these guitars. Let's make it a little bit bigger. So I have 4 rhythm guitar parts here. 1 and 2 are basically the same guitar. Again, this is in that video I did on how to record massive guitars. I panned guitar 1 hard left, I panned guitar 2 hard right. This is again the Les Paul. It's probably the same sound as that intro little chord thing. So let's take a listen. Sounds huge. Yeah, so this is definitely the Les Paul with the punch model. And then I layered it in with guitars 3 and 4. Let's see what this is. So this guitar is the Starcaster. I just wanted a different sound. Yeah, basically same thing. I panned that left and right, not quite center. Let's put it all together. Sounds huge. This is my main rhythm tone for all the choruses in the song. So all of that is the Strymon Iridium punch model. Let's take a listen to the lead lines. It's just an octave chord thing that I do. I'm pretty sure this is a Starcaster. Let's put it all together. So that was the Starcaster. Yeah, and all of that was the punch model from the Strymon Iridium. So that's the intro. Let's take a listen to the verse 1. Some chugging there. let's break that down. Guitar 5 and 6. I think these are just single strums. So this is definitely the Vox AC30 model. I'm pretty sure this is the Starcaster. So I'm just doing single chord strums here. And then lead guitar line. So this is like the main thing. This is definitely the Vox AC30 model with some delay probably. Yep. So I'm using that dotted eighth delay. 134 beats. So usually I match the BPM of the dotted eighth to the beats of the song. Super simple. That Vox AC30 sounds amazing. And then the second half, we do some chugging, and I'm pretty sure this will be the punch model with the EP booster. Yeah. And that's verse 1. Chorus 1 is exactly the same as the intro. Verse 2 is a shorter verse, and I think it's just chugging and the clean lines. Sounds so cool. And then the chorus 2 is the exact same. Let's listen to that. There's the piano. Okay, yeah, so this is, I wanted like kind of like a quiet moment. In the final version, I think we shortened this. Yeah, we definitely shortened it. Some chugging there. So let me break that down. So the first part is the Vox AC30 palm muting. This is it right here. With some piano, really cool. And then the punch chug. And then there's actually a lead line where I'm playing the octave. I'll solo that. Check this out. And then that's pretty much it. And this is the final chorus and outro. Man, that was really cool. I haven't seen this session since I sent it out to Alan to get mixed, and obviously these days I'm just going on Spotify and listening to the track. I'm not looking at my Logic Pro files, but it was really cool to see what I did, and I hope that these principles that I used in that recording and how I showed it to you, you can apply to your own recordings to make huge sounding records. So the whole point of this video is, one, to highlight how awesome the Strymon Iridium is, but more importantly, how awesome it is that we live in a time where you can have access to tools like the Strymon Iridium, the HX Stomp, and all these wicked, amazing amp modelers that does the thing that tube amps do. Not everybody has an amazing recording space, recording studio where they can mic up a tube amp and really crank it and get those saturated tones. Would I prefer to do that? Of course, 100% of the time. There's nothing better than full sending your guitar amp. There's nothing better than me cranking up my Vox AC15 or my EVH 5150 and getting these massive tones. But I just don't have the space to do it. I'm in a townhouse, I have neighbors, I just don't have the space to do it. But the whole point of this video is we have all these tools available to us and we can use them to our disposal and use them for good. And I want to show you guys that you guys can make amazing music at home. And you don't need fancy studios and studio equipment, just create music with what you have. And yeah, that's it. That's the whole point of this video. Shout out to Strymon Iridium for making my favorite pedal, the MVP of my whole setup for this year. I switched to them at the beginning of this year, the end of 2024. And man, like 95% of all the tones coming out of the studio in these YouTube videos are the Strymon Iridium. So shout out to those guys for making a sick pedal. Shout out to Line 6 for making the HX Stomp, which has been the MVP in my studio before the Strymon Iridium. Yeah, I can't say enough about it. If you want to check out the video that appears on Heartsick, we made a video about that. It is Circles, Post Malone's song. I will link it right here. Thank you for watching. I will see you guys in the next video. Peace. Shout out to my boys, Alan and Ian Blackwood. Let's go.
Hold on, there's a second side to everything. It's holding on, the right thing to do. Yeah, hold on, there's a second side to everything. You know, I know, it takes two.